Hello everybody, my name is Rock Sanders here again, and today we're going to be working on oil and filter change on my 2015 Honda CBR600RR. If y'all remember in the last video, we took off the rear wheel and we replaced the rear brake pads. If you haven't seen that, I'll leave a link down below for y'all. Make sure to check that out. So let's go ahead and get started today. So one of the first things you're going to want to do is you're going to want to gather your tools. So I'll go ahead and do a little tool list for y'all. So what we got here, first you're going to need some good oil. I did talk to some people at Cycle Gear and they told me that this is some of the best stuff you can get. Now Honda says it takes 10W30. I get 10W40, that's just personal preference. You can get 10W30, that's totally up to you. Next you're going to need a good oil filter. I do recommend the K&N oil filter. Again, that's just personal preference. You can get a cheaper one, but when it comes to maintaining, your sports bike, I wouldn't really recommend going too cheap. Next, what you're going to need is you're going to need an Allen wrench or an Allen key. Depends on what you want to call it. This is going to be a 5mm. This is going to be to take the fairings off. You're going to need a 12mm wrench or socket, anything like that. This is going to be for your drain bolt. And I do have these channel locks just because I'm expecting the oil filter to be a little bit of a pain to get off. So I'm going to use these in case I need them. One of the last things you're going to need is something to drain your oil into. Obviously you don't want to be draining it onto the ground, so I'd recommend some type of tub or a bucket, or you probably have a tray. Use that as well. The last thing you're going to need, I guess you don't technically need it, but I would recommend getting some type of stand for your bike. I use a Harbor Freight one. I got it for, I think it was $38, so a little under 40 bucks. It's been working great for me. I haven't had any issues so far. I guess the first thing you're going to want to do in order to start this whole process is you're going to want to warm your bike up. I recommend warming your bike up just because it makes the oil flow a lot easier, and it's going to be a little bit warmer, so it's just gonna flow right out. If you leave it cold, you can do that, but keep in mind it's going to take a lot longer to do your oil change. So I'd recommend just letting the bike idle. You can go for a quick little ride around the block if you want to. I usually let it idle for about a little over 5 minutes. 5 minutes should be plenty to get it nice and warm. And yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and we'll get that started, okay? Alright, so now that you got your bike warmed up, we can go ahead and start with the oil change. So what I would recommend is taking the fairings off kind of while it's warming up if you want to get it done quicker. I just didn't do that because it's an informational video and you wouldn't have been able to hear me at all. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So it's going to be your 5mm Allen wrench. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and start taking off these fairings. And what I like to do is I like to put things back where I got them from, because after working on cars for a little while, although these might look all the same and they might be the same, some of them are different lengths. I don't know if this is the case, but it's just kind of a good habit to stay in. So just be aware of that. Anytime you're working, when you're pulling off any type of bolts or anything like that, make sure you kind of keep them organized, because there might be a chance that they're different. So Alright, and this is a perfect example. So take off this middle one, you can see they're two different bolts. They use the same size Allen key, but they're two different ones. So just a warning. Alright, let's get this last one. Alright. So we went ahead and got those off. Checked. Alright, so there is going to be another one right here on the bottom. I did not see that one, so we'll go ahead and get that bottom off as well. So y'all make it a little bit easier. It's going to be right here. Okay, let's go ahead and get that one. Alright, so it does look like there's going to be a little clip on the front side of this fairing underneath. That one's going to be located right there. I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see that, but it's going to be that guy right there. So we might have to take that one off as well. We'll go ahead and see what happens. Careful with these fairings. You don't want to break them. They're not going to be super easy to break, but be aware. Alright. So yeah, that clip is kind of holding it in, so try and get it out of there. Hopefully I don't strip it. Alright. There we go. So you just gotta loosen up that one a little bit, right there, and it'll just pop right out. So now that we got our fairing off, I'm gonna want to put this to the side. I recommend the paint side up. You don't want to scratch it. Mine does have a little bit of scratching to it, but it'll be okay. So now that we got the fairing off, as you can see, we got everything exposed, and this is about all we need, to be honest. We're gonna go ahead and start this. So what I like to do, other than warming up the bike, is go ahead and take off the oil fill cap. This is also gonna help it drain a lot faster. It's gonna allow air to come in through the top, and it's gonna help it all just kind of flow through. So got the oil fill cap off. Got that guy. Cool. So the next step we're gonna do is we're gonna be taking off this bolt, the drain bolt. I'm gonna grab my socket wrench. Alright, so got my socket wrench. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna crack it open a little bit. You're gonna wanna need your bucket. You don't wanna make a mess. Put that guy right there. See if I can get you on a better spot. Alright, so go ahead and crack it open. Alright, got it cracked. Slide this over. Just slowly loosen this up. Be aware the oil might be a little warm. I mean, we did heat up the bike. Shouldn't be hot enough to necessarily burn you, but just be aware. So, slowly open it up. Once you can shake it, it's getting ready to come out. I just twist it real quick and just move your hand out the way so you can avoid trying to burn yourself. Oh yeah, that oil is pretty bad. So, go ahead and give it a quick twist. Oh, man, y'all see that? Yeah, they did not tell me about this, or I would have done it when I first got the bike. So this is why you need to be really aware when you're buying used bikes, because sometimes they don't tell you everything about it. That looks disgusting. Hopefully it doesn't overflow my bucket. So as you can see, since I heated it up, it flowed out of there pretty quickly. If it was cold oil, it would have been a lot slower. Alright, so we're going to sit there and let that drain a little bit. We're going to go ahead and take off the oil filter, which is going to be located right there. right next to your coolant reservoir. Alright. So let's go ahead and get that step started. So I'm using a pair of channel locks. One, because I assume it's going to be difficult to take off, and two, because I don't want to put my hand on that hot oil filter. One thing to be wary about is the oil filter is located directly above your headers, right there. So you're going to want to put some type of tin foil above your headers or on the headers. That way your oil doesn't contaminate them. That's recommended mainly because, I don't know about y'all, but I like to keep my bike as clean as possible. I know it's dirty right now, just bear with me. I like to keep my bike clean as possible, and I also don't want to risk any fires or any smoke coming off of the headers because of the oil. And more than likely, you'll leave a nasty looking mark on it because the oil will just burn through it. Not burn through it, but it'll burn on it. And you could discolor it, and it's gonna look kind of ugly, to be honest. So yeah, let's let that drain out. I'm gonna grab some tin foil real quick, and we're gonna cover the headers up. That way the oil doesn't splash on there. Got our tin foil, and like I said earlier, you're just gonna try and cover the headers under the oil filter, just to avoid any oil getting on them. Cool. And they are gonna be hot since we did let it warm up. So be careful, try not to burn yourself. And let's go ahead and cover it up. Might make it a little easier if we kind of maybe made a little path for the oil to go down. Or kind of fold it in half. There we go. Get it in there. That grabs a little bit too much, but it's okay. There we go. Just like that. So, doesn't have to look pretty, it just has to work, okay? So, cover the headers like that. Now we're ready to go ahead and take off that oil filter. And we're simply, I need it on the highest setting, simply gonna grab it and turn it to the left. Lefty loosey. Just like that. Okay. Went ahead and gave it a couple spins. Looks like it's gonna come off pretty easily now, but it is still a little hot, so I'm gonna be carefully kind of loosen it up to where it starts bleeding out oil, just like that. You can take it all the way off immediately, but honestly that just makes a big old mess. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Kind of let it drain out a little bit, because there's gonna be a good amount of oil in that filter. Back it off a little bit more, just to where it's about to fall off, but I don't want it to come off. So if you can shake it a little bit and it's still on there, that's probably good enough. You have it backed off. And that oil is just disgusting, guys. I cannot. I've only been working on cars for about a year, but I can tell you that, like, this is probably some of the nastiest oil I've seen. Probably in the top 4. I've seen some pretty bad stuff. This is just bad. So when you do this, make sure to kind of point it down. That way it drains the oil and doesn't get all over you. There we go. Just like that. That is very warm. Fantastic. And as you can see, we didn't get any oil on our headers, and that's the goal. So we're doing good right there. I did make a couple drops on the floor, but I'll clean it up. It'll be okay. Go ahead and let this sit for another minute. Kind of let all that nasty oil come through, because I don't want any of it left over. I know some people will just like let it drain for like 30 seconds till it starts dripping a little bit and just send it. But since this oil is so nasty and I do not know when the last time it was changed, I'm going to give it some time, let it get as much of that out as possible, and then we'll throw on the new filter and add some oil, okay? So I guess I'll go ahead and let y'all know, I guess one thing you could do, if you're sitting here bored like I am, you could go make some food, you can go make a drink, you can do whatever you want. But one thing you need to do is when you get your new oil filter, I know a lot of people, well, Don't know a lot of people, but some people, what they try and do is fill up their oil filter and then go to put it on, and that kind of stops, I guess, any dry running of the engine, because the oil has to be pushed through the filter and then it has to go to the engine. So if you leave it empty, it's got to push through the filter, fill up the filter, and then go to the engine. So there's going to be a little time period where your engine doesn't have really any oil. It's going to have a little bit of leftover from what you're draining and what you add in, but it's not going to be enough. Personally, I've even talked to my instructors about this. That's really not going to have any detrimental effects, because it's literally going to be like a second. Like, it's not going to be enough time to cause any real damage to the engine. If you ran the engine without any oil, that's when you run into a problem. But it's just going to be idling, so it's not going to damage anything. So this oil filter, it looks like it comes pre-oiled on the seal right here. You might not be able to see it too well, but it's a little shiny. I'm assuming that they pre-oiled it. That's also why there was a cover on it. But just to be safe, what I like to do is I like to go ahead and add a little bit of oil on the outside. A lot of people just dip their finger in the old oil and rub it on there. I don't do that. I don't like doing that, because any particles that are in there, you're just going to get them on your seal, and you don't want your seal to leak. So what I do is I take my new oil, dip my finger in there. As you know, it might be a little more difficult on this jug. Dip my finger in there, do a nice rub on the outside, and then it's good to go. That's all you need. We can't fill this one up with oil since it's going to be mounting horizontally like that. It's just going to drain out loud. There we go. Alright, some nice red Lipton oil. Cool. And you're simply just going to take it and rub it on the seal. You don't need a lot, just put some on your finger, coat your finger in it, and just kind of rub it along the side. Okay. And that's so you're going to have a really nice seal whenever you go to put this on there. Another thing I recommend doing is I recommend wiping down the mounting surface where the seal is going to sit at. That also ensures you have a really good seal. So we'll go ahead and do that as well once I'm done with this. So just wipe some on there, and it's good to go. Set that to the side. I'm gonna wipe my finger off. It's a little difficult to get to, but we can do it. And you're just simply gonna wipe off the outside. Do not spray anything in there. Try not to get any particles in there, because any particles you get in there are going to be circulating through your oil. You don't want that at all. Cool. So you can see it's pretty dirty in there. And it looks like, you know, did good enough. You simply screw it on there by hand. Lightly screw it on there, get the threads going. Screw it on there as far as it'll go, and then give it a nice turn with your wrist, okay? Don't crank on it. Don't put as much weight as you can. Just give it a nice turn. You see what I mean? So, I'm going to get it on there. Start it on the threads, lightly. Maybe. Might take it a second to get it on there. Come on. Alright, so it's on there. So you're simply just going to spin it. Like I said, you don't need to put any pressure on it at all. Just simply spin it on there. Okay. And we're going to give it a nice turn. Probably like another half a turn. And you shouldn't be able to easily wiggle it off. See how it stays on there? That's all you need to go. You don't need to crank down on it. Just go until it stops. Give it another half a turn, maybe 3/4 of a turn. You'll feel it get really tight. And as long as you can't wiggle it off with your hand easily. See, I'm trying to grip it. It's not coming off. It's good. Leave it there. Don't put a wrench on it, please. So, I'm going to wait another couple minutes, let it finish draining out the bottom hole right here, and then I'll come back and we'll go ahead and fill her up. Okay, so I've been waiting for about probably like 10 minutes, to be honest. Waiting for this oil to finish draining. Okay. So, looks like it's done, you know, dripping out slowly. So we're going to go ahead and start the fill process. Pretty easy, honestly. It's really nothing difficult. So, first step is to have your oil filter on there. Do not forget to put that. If you forget to put your oil filter, as soon as you turn on the bike, you're gonna know. There's gonna be oil everywhere. How do I know? Well, I worked in a dealership for about a year, and I'll be honest with you, I did forget to put an oil filter on a car one time, and no one ever let me live that down, I'll tell you that. So, put your oil filter on there. Next, you're going to put your drain plug on, which if I can find it, I'm not sure where I set it down at. Oh, crap. Well, I'm hoping it didn't fall in there. I just realized that I think I might have dropped it into that big old jug of oil. So I'm gonna empty this out. I'm gonna get the oil filter, and yeah, we're gonna go with it. Actually, I'm gonna grab a glove because I'm just gonna reach in there and grab it. There is gonna be a washer on there. Make sure you keep that. You do need that washer. This is gonna be a crush washer. You're supposed to replace them every time you do an oil change. To be honest, I only do it whenever I realize that it needs to be changed. It'll have like a little indentation of the hole itself. You'll see what I'm talking about. This one looks pretty good to me. Doesn't look like it was crushed down too much, so we're gonna save it, and I'm just gonna reuse it. So I'm gonna find a way to clean this off without making a mess in my garage. Set that guy right there. Put this oil filter in the old one like that. Bam. Okay. I'm gonna wipe off drain plug. That way it didn't get too messy over here. Cool. Clean off the crush filter. So you see what I mean? There's no marking of where it was really crushed at on either side, so this one's still good to use. If you see like a ring of where like the metal was crushed at, I'd highly recommend replacing it, because at that point it's kind of done its job. So we'll go ahead and put this on here. So these drain plugs do have a torque spec, if I remember correctly. I think it was 19 pounds, 22 pounds, something like that. I do not use a torque wrench on anything that's oil related like this when I'm doing an oil change, just because I don't want to risk stripping it. So what I do is I get it on the hand tighten first, make sure you know that the threads are good. Take off this glove so I don't get my tools dirty. Okay, there we go. So we're going to set it to tighten. So we're going to make sure it's nice and on there tight. Alright, so right there it stopped. Okay, and I'm just going to go not even an eighth of a turn, just where it gets really snug, and I feel comfortable right there. I don't want to push it any further. Just go to where you feel like if I go any further it's going to strip it. Just stop. Okay, do not want to strip it. If anything, you could always come back down and give it a little bit more if you need to, if you see it leaking a little bit, but I'd rather do that than risk stripping it. So we'll go ahead and wipe it down with this little paper towel I got. Looks like I did get a couple drops on the headers, but it's not going to be the end of the world. So try not to get any oil on there. I did get a couple drops, but it's okay. So I'm going to wipe off the drain plug area. That way I don't mistake it for any leaks. If you have some type of cleaner, like carburetor cleaner, which I think I might have, you know, the high quality good stuff. So we're going to spray a little bit on there. And this is so you won't mistake any leftover oil for any oil leaks, because you'd hate for that to happen. So clean it up. Looks pretty good to me. Wipe up here. Double check. Alright, looks pretty clean. I'm going to see if I can get these marks off the headers. Maybe. Carb cleaner will do it. Some pretty powerful stuff, I'll tell you what. Especially when it gets in your eyeballs. And just like that. No more oil marks. Cool. So when I cleaned it up, now we can go ahead and fill up your bike. So this bike, since we did oil and filter change, it's going to take 3 quarts of oil. Do this kind of slowly, that way you don't make a mess with any type of backflow. Like I said earlier, there will be no oil in it as soon as you start it up, because it has to go through the filter first. So don't rev your bike. Please do not rev your bike. Let it idle. And let it idle for a couple minutes. That way you get a nice good flow in there. I'm going to leave the fairings off because I want to check for any leaks. I guess you can't see me because I have the light in you. I'm going to leave the fairings off because I'm going to check for any leaks. I'm going to look around the oil filter and also around the drain plug. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and get that done. Looking good. So, I do need to add one thing, okay? So that sight glass we were talking about earlier, when you first fill up the bike, it's going to be completely full, okay? It'll just look like you overfilled it, okay? You're okay. You want to run the bike for a couple minutes. Do not rev it. Just let it idle there. Literally just like a minute or two just to get it nice and circulating. And then once you come back, you want to double check that you have the right amount of oil in there, okay? It's perfect. Right at the top. Just exactly where we wanted it. Okay? Okay, so now we're ready to put our fairing back on. So the easiest way to do this that I found personally is to start at this corner right here, top right corner. There's going to be this little clip that you need to get in. It's on the inside of this fairing. You can kind of feel it. But you need to get that clip in there first, or it's not going to line up at all. And if you already get the back side in, it's going to be a little difficult. So that's the easiest way I found to do it. So it appears that I am missing a bolt, so if I miss to say that bolt, I do apologize. You're going to want to pull this plastic piece back. Okay, so there's this plastic piece. You're going to want to pull this away. That way you can slide this plastic piece behind it. So I'll show you what I mean. So we're going to pull it back, slide this piece back there. You're going to want to get this underneath this top fairing, which you might have to pull it back. And you're just going to keep pulling it back and kind of work your way in there, and you should feel it clip in. See, I can just let go and it stays there. That's how you know you got that clip in there correctly. Okay? This black piece kind of goes over the top. Like I said, I am missing a bolt, so you should have one right there. If you do, you'll just kind of screw it back in there. Alright, now to get the rest in, you just simply slide it up. Okay, just like that. And that's how you're going to get that first fairing on there. And then I would simply just start with a single one in there, this corner. Kind of start it in there by hands. Grab your Allen wrench. And then just tighten it down. So, go ahead and put the rest of these in, and we'll get back to it. like to double check, make sure I got all of them in there. Nice and tight. Whew. And then just this last clip. Alright. And that's going to be it for today, guys. Hope y'all enjoyed my video on how to do an oil change and oil filter replacement. Let me know how I did down in the comments. Leave a like if this helped you out. If there's anything else y'all would like me to do, just go ahead and let me know. And I hope y'all have a wonderful day and be safe out there riding. Alright, so I don't see any leaks. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is clean up my area, put the bearings back on. And that basically concludes it for today, guys.